Let's go! Positives, negatives from the early signing period. Of course, we're going to balance it out. It wasn't all good. It was mostly good, but it wasn't all bad either. Let's get to it. And thank you guys for the 2,000 subscribers. So first positive, obviously, is getting your in-state 5-star recruits. Maason Smith, Sage Ryan, make it official. And on top of that, as bad of a year as LSU's had with all the off-the-field issues, guess what? Not one, not two, but 8 total top 100 prospects commit to LSU. And as you can see, it's good enough for a nationally ranked 4th class. Now the bad news. You whiffed on all the out-of-state 5-stars you were gunning for. Corey Foreman, I think it's leaked or being reported that he signed with USC. We still don't know for sure until January 2nd. Tommy Brockermeyer was once rumored to LSU. He goes to Alabama. Caleb Williams had LSU as a finalist. He goes to Oklahoma. Tristan Lee, well, what's going to happen here? We still don't know. Hopefully he goes to LSU, but the momentum is not heading that way. But as we've pointed out in our recent study, our recruiting deep dive, out-of-state 5-stars outside of the defensive back position has not been all that fruitful for LSU. We're waiting to see what's going to happen here with Eric Gilbert. Number 2, Merry Flipmas. For real, LSU had a good day flipping recruits. Armani Goodwin, who has been decommitted for the last couple of weeks from Auburn. Kev Falk and LSU was able to close the deal at running back to give them one of the strongest running back classes they've had in a long time. Not only do they get Armani Goodwin, Kev Falk locked up our boy Corey Kiner from Ohio. And as many of you know, the last Mr. Football from Ohio to play at LSU is my friend and yours, Joe Burrow. So if Corey Kiner is anywhere as good as that guy, LSU did pretty good at a pretty key position. But that wasn't the only flip. Even though Nathaniel Wiggins decided to go to Clemson, that was LSU's only corner. They were able to get Demarius McGhee. Who's better, McGhee or Wiggins? I think that's too close to tell, but LSU was able to get another corner in this class. Now, the future at that position looks pretty good for LSU, headlined by Elias Ricks, obviously, but also Dwight McGlothern, also Jay Ward, Cordell Flott, and now you get Demarius McGhee. So it looks pretty good at a very important position, as DBU overall had a good day getting all those good safeties as well. Malik Nabers was also a signing day flip out of Mississippi State. He's able to stay at home out of Youngsville, Louisiana, and who's to say he can't be the best wide receiver in this class? Brody Miller did some really good reporting on this JUCO linebacker, Bug Strong. That is his nickname, Bug. Mississippi JUCO transfer. Hopefully he's an immediate impact player, a lot like Jabril Cox this past year. So pretty good day for LSU to finish strong with all these commits coming in, not only yesterday, but over the past week. But for every positive, there's also a negative side. As we move back to the negative, LSU also lost out on some flips, including my favorite player in the class of 2021, which was JoJo Earle. It would be disingenuous for me to praise him for so many live streams and then just turn on him here just because he went to, LSU's biggest rival. But this guy, to me, was the best wide receiver out of anyone in the class of 2021. But the benefit of the 4 guys you did get, 3 of them were Louisiana guys, and 1 of them grew up wanting his dream school to be LSU. So you for sure get 4 guys that want to be there. And then Keanu Koht, obviously a big loss for LSU on signing day. And I say big because for me, I thought he was the best edge prospect LSU had in their class. He flips to Alabama. Now, 247 has him rated way higher than everyone else. I view it the same way. I think he's a special player. 6'4", 215. Both he and Earle had been praising LSU for months just to flip to Alabama. I wish them the best. but it does suck when your rival takes away two of the best players in this class. The benefit, though, is a lot like JoJo Earle. LSU loses Koht in a position where they're pretty deep. They got Landon Jackson. They got Xavier Carter. So they're looking pretty good, even though they lost two players at positions that they were already deep in the 2021 class. Another positive for LSU is DBU has been restored. Huge defensive back class, headlined, of course, by Sage Ryan. But something we've been told over the years is that the DBU brand is really a national brand. Because Sage Ryan, I think in our heart of hearts, I know that he was heavily rumored to go to Alabama. 5-star Louisiana players are always destined to go to LSU, let's be honest. So he going to LSU was just destiny. The bigger story to me is this kid, Derrick Davis Jr., probably more of a pure deep safety at LSU. This kid is incredible. There is a reason why he is the number 3 safety. So LSU, in a year that they got Jordan Tolles last year, they get the number 2 and the number 3 safety. So what does that tell you? That a DB who everyone thought was going to stay in Big Ten country decides to come down to LSU in a class where they already have a safety. So that's good work by safeties coach Bill Bush and Corey Raymond. And how can we forget Matthew Langlois from my mother's hometown of New Roads, Louisiana? We have a lot of New Roads viewers. It is a small town, about 45 minutes north of Baton Rouge at Catholic Appoint-Coupee. This is just so cool. And for me, I view Matthew Langlois a little bit more as a linebacker, box safety type. Nevertheless, he's going to contribute on special teams, and he's a guy that desperately wants to be at LSU. However, I am a big Langlois Gee fan. I know some people are saying that he might not be a part of this class. Who knows what's going to happen with him? He might sign somewhere else when I post this video, but I love Langlois Gee. I really do, and I hope he is a part of this LSU class. So, as great as the defensive backs have been, the negative here is the offensive line recruiting continues to tumble. Garrett Dellinger, really good prospect, one of the best offensive tackles in this class. But as you can tell, offensive tackle was very deep. The two positions that dominated the class of 2021 was offensive tackle and wide receiver. I believe both of those positions had at least 10 players in the 247 composite top 100. Now think about all the positions in college football. Those were the two most fruitful. Now, LSU killed it at wide receiver, but obviously at offensive tackle, they only got one of the elite guys and only one guy overall. And this is a year after they only got 3 offensive linemen. Only one of those was a 4-star in Marcus Dummerville. So this continues to be an issue at LSU, and I don't care who you are, this should concern you. Now, Ed Orgeron did say yesterday he has some silent commitments, some of which are on the offensive line. I think even anybody on LSU staff would admit that they need to recruit this position better. But why does it matter so much? Because of these guys. Alabama. Take a look at their offensive line class. J.C. Latham, the best offensive lineman in this class at IMG Academy, and Tommy Brockermeyer. These are 2 top 5 national prospects. But it doesn't stop there. You go down, and Brockermeyer has a younger brother that's also coming along, James Brockermeyer, the number 1 center, who can probably also play guard. So, obviously, when your rival is killing it on the offensive line and you're not, we just did a film study, and I said repeatedly throughout the film study, the biggest gap between LSU and Alabama wasn't Mac Jones, it wasn't Devonta Smith, it wasn't Alabama's defense, it was the offensive line. Bama's offensive line gives up nothing to a defensive lineman, and that's because this year on Bama's offensive line, their left tackle was the number 1 offensive tackle in the country when he came out, Alex Leatherwood, and their right tackle, Evan Neal, who's also from IMG Academy, was the number one offensive tackle in his class. And as great as last year's LSU's offensive line was, which was mostly comprised of 3 stars and a JUCO transfer, that's a needle in a haystack. It's better to get the 4 and 5 star offensive linemen. Alabama's proven this time in and time out. And LSU's got to do a better job of getting some of the best guys. Now, that might change next year because one of the best offensive tackles in the class of 2022 is from Louisiana and Will Campbell. But we'll see. We will see if LSU will do better, and we will see if LSU can find some offensive line transfers here before the final date. So an overarching positive is that you have a nationally ranked recruiting class. Legit. Top 5 recruiting wins you national championships. It at the very least gets you in the discussion. Plenty of evidence proves that to be true, and LSU looks as if they have one of the best classes in college football. I see a lot of future All-SEC players in this group. Of course, they got to come to school, get the work in, and hopefully develop into the players that they can be. So with everything that's happened, this was a net positive. You have to keep in mind how many SEC and just college football teams in general never even come close to getting in the top 15. And in a year where everything went wrong, LSU still had a top 5 national class. What about Rajon Davis? What about Corey? We don't know what those guys are going to do. I hope they sign with LSU. I like Rajon Davis a lot. He's been a part of this class for quite some time, but it's not looking the absolute best right now for him. But still, overall, to get a top 5 nationally ranked recruiting class is huge. But there is a negative. Notice 2 schools are ahead of you. Alabama, the rich get richer. Alabama, clearly with the best recruiting class out of anyone. And I know I've mentioned them a lot, but Nick Saban, who has better on-field coaching than you, has better roster management than you, has better re-recruiting of players that are already on the team better than you. Alabama got richer, and they are stronger in other aspects than you are, including your best aspect, which at LSU is recruiting. That is Ed Orgeron's strongest thing. That is also Nick Saban's strongest thing, but he's better at all the other things than you as well. So, that's negative. It's not a good thing that Alabama is so daggum good. And obviously, LSU had Joe Burrow last year, and that was ultimately the deciding factor in LSU getting through and actually breaking through and beating Alabama. But you see, it's not just Alabama, though. It's Georgia, a team that if you had to go to the SEC championship game, more than likely you're going to play them. Florida is a school that, with the stupid cross-division rival rule, you play them every year. They had another strong recruiting class. And then, to wrap things up, Texas A&M got a lot of players I like a lot. Shamar Turner was my favorite player in the class. I know LSU was rumored to bring him in. I think he's going to be a stud. And look, he ended up being a 5-star composite. He was a 4-star just a few weeks ago. As you could tell, Texas A&M got better. Their defense keeps getting better. Their offensive line recruiting continues to be great. LSU, obviously, a far better class nationally. But Texas A&M in the last couple of years, in the last 2 years, they had top 10 classes. This is an 11th ranked class. So I say that because Texas A&M, Alabama, and Florida, all 3 of them, top 15 classes. Those are schools that you have to play every single year. At some point, Auburn's going to get back on track once they figure out who their head coach is going to be. So, yeah, it's going to be competitive. And as we can see right now, LSU tactically has major issues. So we got to figure out what the coaching situation is going to be like. And, of course, the off-the-field investigations could hamper LSU even more. So as great as yesterday was, it was obviously a mostly positive day. There are a lot of questions that Ed Orgeron's going to have to answer over the next couple of months. Let me know what you think of the video. Obviously, our live streams were great. Comment below your thoughts on LSU's recruiting class. It's power. Our LSU. Boom. Ba-da-ba. Good job, Coach Joe. Let's go, guys. Let's go.